I'm just running a 3/8 tap through all these holes just to clean up the threads. It's just got like grime in there, dirt. It's not that the threads are bad. And maybe I ought to take this flex plate off. Anyway, flex plate's bent right here. It's my bad, probably from storage and dropping it and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and clean up in here before I bolt the engine stand to it. I still gotta clean up these cylinders. There's just dirt in here more than anything. Maybe a little light rust. We'll see if it turns over or if it gets hung up or not, but I think it's gonna turn over. I'm gonna throw grease up in here so that when the pistons, as this thing turns over and the pistons come up, the grease will hold all the dirt and stuff to the top, making it easier to clean out, so you get as much grime and dirt and everything else out of the cylinder as much as possible. Oh shit. 30 over. This thing's been rebuilt. Wow. All right, well that's a surprise. Well, that would explain why it doesn't have any wear. I was thinking the motorhome either had 40,000 on it or 80,000 on it. I just don't remember which. And I was leaning towards the 40,000 number because I didn't see any wear in the cylinders. But now that we know it's been rebuilt, it's possible it was 80,000 miles. You know, it's possible this thing had low mileage and the motor blew up, you know, for whatever reason. And maybe it was rebuilt with low mileage. I don't know. A lot of carbon on there. I'm just lightly dragging this to knock off the carbon. I don't want to leave any gouges in the piston. All right, apparently the camera wasn't rolling. No big deal. Got the flex plate off. Like I said, I'm gonna clean all this up. I have a question for you guys that know your stuff. My question is that crank, it's a steel crank, but is that drilled for a 4-speed? I kind of think it's supposed to be deeper than that for the nub to go into, but you guys let me know. It never ceases to amaze me all the issues you could potentially have, no matter how simple of something you're trying to do. I'm just trying to clean up the back of the block so I can get the engine stand on it. I was gonna paint it, but here's the oil pressure sending unit. You can see the block probably rolled around, got smashed, and it also pulled the threads out. I have a feeling this damage was here before, because you can see there's a lot of Teflon on here. I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Anyway, I'm gonna take this to Ace Hardware, find out what thread size this is, see if I can get a tap for it, run the tap through the block to try to clean up that hole. Let me show you the hole because it's pretty damaged. Might have to go a little deeper so that we can get this to going farther so that we get into a clean area with good threads versus bad threads towards the top. So one more thing I got to do before I can do the thing I'm trying to do. So back in the 90s and the 2000s, the Mopar paint came in a can like this. Can't get that anymore. Then they started putting it in a can like this, but it looks like you can't get that anymore either. And so now this is what it comes in. You got a label here, basically says Mopar Hemi Orange. From 65 to 71 Mopar Hemi Orange spray paint. Generally takes 2 cans to paint an engine. 75 to 71, 383 and 440s also. I'm just gonna paint the back of the block here. So I was just gonna go over the numbers on the block real quick. Up here on the RB pad, you've got J full 40, T, and you've got 5, 9. So this thing was machined May 9th. The J means it was a 73. I'm not sure what the T means. I gotta look that up. And here's the casting numbers. We got 3, 6, 9, 8, 8. I think a 6, 0, full 40, and a 1. I think that 1, is that 1 or 7? Make that a 7. Then we've got April 9th, 1973. That 3 could be an 8, but being that it's a J, I know that it's actually a 3. And we got the same numbers here. 3, 6, 9, 8, 8, 3, 0, full 40, 7. This would be the pad where the VIN number would be stamped into if it was a car. This came out of a motorhome, so I don't think they bothered stamping motorhome engines. If it was a warranty block, it would be blank as well. Also built night shift. All right, once that paint dries, I'm gonna put the engine stand on it. We'll get back to cleaning everything up. And you know, I wanna inspect the cam. Cam looks okay. I mean, I don't think anything went wrong there. Probably a motorhome truck cam. You know, it's an old school cam, so it's worth holding on to. And it's good. So I don't know, we'll pack it away. We'll replace the cam. I'm gonna put a 509 in this. I know you guys are gonna be like, that's too much cam for this low compression engine. But yeah, it's okay. I don't mind. I just wanna try it. I wanna make this as low budget as possible. So cam and lifters are about 400 bucks nowadays. Timing set's probably gonna be close to 100 bucks. I need to change the oil pan. I might be able to muster up something, but if I buy a new one, you know, I would guess another 400 or 500 bucks. And then aside from like a fuel pump and stuff like that, I don't think I need to buy much else. I got the stealth heads I was gonna put on it, and pretty sure I got an intake laying around. Anyway, it's a rough plan. So vacuumed up, there was a bunch of like rat poop and stuff in here, just some dirt and grime. So I vacuumed that out. And so for now, the cleaning continues. All right, gonna pull the fuel pump off to get it out of the way, and I want to make sure that I hold on to these fuel pump bolts because you know they're the right length, right size, etc. So we'll put those in a safe place so we can reuse them. I must have took the rod out of this one. In fact, I think I kind of remember taking it because I needed it for another engine. All right. We're gonna go ahead and pull the motor mount off. This is a motorhome style motor mount. I don't think it's the same as a truck. It might be. Go ahead and label this as passenger side, as if we're ever gonna read that. Well, and if anybody's out there messing with a motorhome and they are putting it back together and wondering where their motor mounts go or how they go, The mount on the passenger side is going in front of the ears on this side. The two front bolts are going to be threaded forward, and the back bolt's going to be threaded towards the rear. Whew. That is hot. Looks like that one gets a washer. Okay, this is pretty cool. I didn't know this originally. When I was doing the Junkyard Dog 440, one of the viewers told me what this means. But if you look on the side of the block, you'll see these letters here. And I've seen it before. It was on the Junkyard Dog block. And I was saying I don't know what it means, but this guy pointed it out. And I can't remember who it was that said this. So hopefully if you're watching, you could put it in the comments and say it was me, or clarify if I'm speaking incorrectly here. But anyway, when the engine or the block is machined, these cylinders might be a little bit oversized or undersized, and these letters basically represent those differences in sizes. So for example, this is C, B, I can't make out what letter was here, and this is a C. And if you looked at the original pistons, they'll have a stamping in them with letters on them. So this one would have had a C, this one would have had a B, whatever that is, and a C, and it's stamped right in the middle of the piston. Depending on that size, that's what size piston you would put into the hole. So that's what those letters mean. Kind of cool. I'll end up painting over that so we'll never see it again. And this one doesn't have the letters because somebody rebuilt this engine. It's got 30 over pistons in it now, so the original pistons are long gone. So here's an original manual. I think it was a 1970. I don't know for sure because the cover's gone. But here is the block bore sizes. So these are the letters that you saw on the side of the block. And basically these are the bore dimensions. So you could see they're a half thou apart from each other. So if you had, you know, an A size versus a B size or C size, they would put a slightly larger piston into each one of those bores. And like I was saying, the piston will have a letter stamped on it that corresponds to these letters as well. So I'm just going to run the tap through all these headbolt holes. I can see some surface rust in some of them, and I just want to get them all nice and clean. I'm throwing some grease in here so any debris that comes off of the threads basically stick to the tap and hopefully won't be left in the hole. Check this out. All right, look in here. You see how it's blue where the gasket material is basically stuck to the metal? And look here, basically burnt, it's charred. This engine had a blown head gasket right here. Probably didn't leak water, so the water jackets are over here, but it probably lost a lot of compression between these two cylinders. If it happened before the rebuild, you know, it was never decked, it's probably okay. I mean, that's just a bummer if it happened after the rebuild. It's like last thing you want is to rebuild an engine and then have a blown head gasket. I'll have to look at those heads. It might have been fixed because as I recall, this engine was running in the motorhome. I never had it running, but it was running at one point, so I don't know how well it was running, you know. Let's check the other side. This poor guy, man. This poor guy had some bad luck with this engine. Look at that, charred. Good seal, charred, good seal. So another blown head gasket there. This engine had 2 blown head gaskets. So probably got really hot. One of the biggest problems with these motorhome heads is they put big water jackets in them, so the walls are thinner. And it was for cooling because these engines had to pull a giant ass motorhome that weighed a ton. And can you imagine going up hills and stuff like that? It's generating a ton of heat. So they were trying to keep the engines cool with the big water jackets in the heads. But yeah, this is the downside, is probably thin in here. And when it got up to those temperatures, the head probably warped and they lost the head gasket there. Lost compression. 4 cylinders, half the engine's gone at that point. It's like, dude, death nail, you know? So again, we don't know if that happened and then he rebuilt it. And this is probably, the block's probably fine. If anything, I would say the heads are probably in question. They could have been replaced, I don't know. We'll put a straight edge on there, see what it looks like. I don't know how great of a straight edge this is, but preliminary check indicates it's fine. I'm not seeing any light, which, you know, I would suspect that the block would be fine because it's so thick. It's the heads you got to worry about. So when we get to the heads, we'll check them. So I wasn't planning on using the heads for use, you know, on the engine, except for cam brake-in. I was thinking about putting them on here because they would have lighter springs, so it'd be less pressure on the cam. Get the cam broke in and then put the stealth heads on this block. But we'll check out the heads and see what they look like. So they look pretty nasty, pretty carboned up. Main thing I wanted to look at was the area between the two chambers here, because the block indicates that there was a blown head gasket at one time. I don't even want to touch these. Not right now. But anyway, well, I thought the block was empty, but there's some oil in there, so we're draining that out. All right, on the driver's side, motor mount in front of the ears. The 2 front bolts going that direction, back bolt that direction. In case anybody here trying to put one back together and forgot how it went. I'm not sure if there's other advantages to this block, but basically it's got the better webbing, stronger block, so good for strokers. All right, so I retapped this hole because it got damaged. It is, in case you need to retap your own, it is a 1/8-27. So basically I just wanted to clean up the threads and I ran it down a little bit farther. I put grease on there to hold any kind of metal chips or anything like that. I'm going to take a Q-tip and also put grease on it and clean that out. And then we'll be able to rethread a new oil pressure sending unit in here. So that feels good. So this isn't necessarily a tech tip, but this is an FYI moment. So in case you're wondering, do I use an oil pressure sending unit or do I use an oil pressure switch? So this depends on the car and your cluster you have. If you have, say, a 1969 Dodge Charger with the Rally dash in it, it has an oil pressure gauge, which means the needle moves, indicating what the oil pressure is. That would require this, an oil pressure sending unit. Let's say you have a 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner, and it just has the standard sweeper dash in it, and it has an oil pressure light. Then you would use this unit. This basically is just an on-off switch. So when the oil pressure drops low, like say you turn the ignition off, the engine's not running, there's no oil pressure, you'll see a red light come on in the dash. That's this guy saying there's no oil pressure. And then when you start the car up, oil pressure comes up, it goes past a certain amount. You know, I assume it's going to be 45 or 50 psi or something like that. And then that red light's going to go out indicating you have oil pressure. So you won't be able to know what the oil pressure is. It's just an on-off switch. Light on, light off. So if your light's on, you have low oil pressure. Lights off, you got good oil pressure. This is a 71 and later. I think this is actually a 3 or 4 cluster, but anyway, it's a Rally dash. It has an oil pressure gauge. This is what you would use the oil pressure sending unit on. And here in my 68 Dodge Coronet, it's got a normal sweeper dash. It doesn't have an oil pressure gauge on it. It has a light. So you would use the oil pressure switch in this case, And it basically, when you start the engine, that light's going to go out once the oil pressure is up high. And if your oil pressure dropped too low, that light would come on telling you to shut the engine off. I mean, most people probably know this stuff, but there's probably a lot of new guys, young guys coming in, or they're new to Mopars and stuff. They may not know little details like this. And this is the kind of stuff people don't really talk about. So, because they assume everybody knows it, you know. All right, so for shits and giggles, let's just see how far the piston is down the hole. 168 thousandths in the hole. That's terrible.